Greetings and salutations. Welcome to a video about audio. JC's Favorite Records, episode 4. I can't believe we've done that many of these so far. Now, if this is not your thing, I understand. You are free to go find something else to watch if you want to. Also, please, you do not need to put in the comments that the tablecloth needs to be replaced. I am well aware of that. Between the cats and the kids, it has gotten quite torn up. So let's jump right in. I have a small stack of LPs and another small stack of 45s to talk about. Our first record we're going to talk about today is Dave Brubeck's Time In. This is from about 1966, and this was recorded after the Dave Brubeck Quartet had been together for 15 years. This is probably one of the last great original Dave Brubeck Quartet albums that was put out. And then after that, it was a lot of compilations. And of course, the quartet broke up in 1968 and all that stuff. This is an album from my youth, and I really like the songs on it. The main song that I was going after when I bought it was something called 40 Days, which is the last song on side 1 there. Excellent album, highly recommended if you're into jazz. And Joe Morello's drums are unbelievable on that record. And we got another Brubeck album. This is an album that came out in 1959, and this is the Dave Brubeck Quartet, Gone with the Wind. They're doing Southern-themed songs like Georgia on My Mind, Shortin' and Bread, Camptown Races. This is a very famous album, and a lot of what's on it is one take. They just went in and recorded it, and that was it. This particular copy of this is a mid-60s reissue, but it's done very, very well, and it sounds extremely good. This is what happens when you get a new turntable, you get records. So both of those albums, highly recommended if you like jazz. Another thing that I've been doing is replacing a lot of albums that I either lost for some reason or had crappy copies of. This is one of them, Tom Jones' Greatest Hits. This is a special version of this that was put out by the RCA Record Club in the early 70s, about 1973 or 74. And it has a slightly different song list than the London Tom Jones Greatest Hits. Mainly, it adds the tune She's a Lady, which is not on the other Greatest Hits, and I don't remember what got bumped off. I had a copy of this, and it got dropped onto a turntable with the stylus light up. It was that GLI Pro Techniques SL1200 clone, and it just scratched down one side of it and completely ruined it. So I got a replacement copy. I was able to finally find one on eBay. It's in okay condition, not excellent. The record arrived dirty. After a good cleaning, it plays, but it has a bit of surface noise. Of course, my standards are very, very low. Here's a fun record for you. This is a 12-inch single of Tears for Fears' Shout, the song from 1985. I think a lot of folks would agree that the first time that they ever heard Tears for Fears was this particular song in the United States, although they did have a couple of singles that came out before then. And this is really cool because let me see what side I'm looking at here. I got to look around the phone. Okay, so this is the album version right here on this side, okay? And you flip it over, and there's the single. And these are promo records that went out to radio stations. The first time I heard this song on the radio, it was WNOR, and it was the summer of 1985, WNOR in Norfolk. 98.7, they've been known as FM 99 for years and years and years. They're still around. And this was the record that I heard. They played it on the air. So came across that and thought, ooh, I've got to have that. All right. Got some Supertramp for you, ladies and gentlemen. Breakfast in America. Now, I have had a copy of this for a while. This is one of my staple favorite albums, and it's appeared in a couple of videos. But what this is an original 1979 pressing. This is a first pressing, just a regular A&M pressing. It's not mobile fidelity or anything, and it's actually extremely clean. And it sounds wonderful, whereas the reissues that are out there, they're very iffy, and the pressing's not so great, and the audio levels are a bit low. I mean, I guess if you got the mobile fidelity version, it would be okay, but I wanted an original pressing, and so I got one. I wanted to actually hear what it sounded like when it came out in 1979. More Supertramp. Had this for a while, but I haven't shown it in a video, or at least not in 10 years or so. This is one of my favorite albums from them. This is Crisis What Crisis from 1975. Great album cover. Guy sitting in the junkyard there with the radio and the table and soaking up the sun. This is a great album. If you come across it, I highly recommend it. Some of their most thoughtful work is on here. There really wasn't any big radio hits from this album. Sister Moonshine got some play. Lady got some play. There's a song called Lady on here. But other than that, this is mainly what we would have called back in the day an FM progressive rock sort of album. And that's where you heard this stuff. And we have another Supertramp. I know you're just waiting with bated breath. This is Crime of the Century, issued in the United States in 1974, and this is on A&M Records. This is an original that's in not so great shape. I have found that when you're buying records on eBay, regardless of what they say, people will say things are in excellent condition and that sort of thing, and they don't really understand how to grade. So sometimes it's a gamble, but I did not want to pay, $7,500 for the mobile fidelity pressing of this that's out there right now. I think that's kind of crazy. So I took my chance on this, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. This is right on the edge of being one that I wouldn't keep, actually. But it's just this side of playable enough to keep, which is fine for me. I actually have really low standards. But when you're dealing with Supertramp, it's very dynamic music, and if you have a noisy record, it really takes away from it. So I'm kind of picky with this particular group. Anyway, this album contains Dreamer, which is one of their signature songs. Bloody Well Right is also on this record. Plus a great tune called Rudy. Crime of the Century is wonderful here. School, excellent song. Beautiful album if you like progressive rock from the 70s, which I do. But I'm not a huge Pink Floyd fan. And we got the last LP to look at here from 1983. It's Lionel Richie, Can't Slow Down. This is one that I also had a repress of. Bought it off of Amazon. What is it, 1995 or whatever. And the repressing was horrid. Not only did it have high surface noise, but it sounded like they got it from a really messed up work tape. It wasn't like the original master quality. And then to top it off, a lot of these remasters come out and the audio is very low. For whatever reason, the engineers don't use a great deal of level on the records, and you put all that together and you end up with something that just sounds like mud. So I got tired of that too and said, I'm going to find me one of those, an original. And this is an original 1983 Motown pressing in pretty good shape. It's not mint, but it'll do. Like I said, I'm not terribly picky when it comes to this stuff. All right, we're going to do 45s now. Just a few. I actually got many 45s lately, but I've kind of picked through here things I wanted to show you. From 1975, this is Neil Sedaka, The Immigrant. And this is when Neil was making his big comeback on the radio in the U.S. He had recorded a lot of songs in England. And one of the songs here, The Immigrant, is actually dedicated to John Lennon. John Lennon at that time was fighting with the immigration service in the United States to be able to stay in the country. And this is a wonderfully orchestrated, arranged song. They just don't make records like this anymore. In the late 60s and early 70s, they would hire all these wonderfully talented musicians, and they had full orchestras and beautiful arrangements on songs, just pop records, and this is one of them, The Immigrant by Neil Sedaka. Great tune. My mother accuses me in my record collecting that I am buying back my childhood, and this is definitely true, especially this one. This is Herb Alpert's Rise. This was a #1 song from 1979. It's a funky jazz instrumental that went to #1 that year, and this, I got 2 copies in here. This is the new one. This is the radio promo single, which I have been actually looking for many, many years, and one finally popped up, and this is in perfect condition. And side 1 is mono, and side 2 is stereo. So let me look here. Which one is this? Yeah, I did it backwards, but this is the mono size, so you get the idea. And the mono mix is ever so slightly different than the stereo one. And here is the stock A&M Styrene 45. So I have both. And there's actually a third version of this that was put out on Forget Me Not, which was a label that A&M had there for a while. In the last video, I showed Yes, Owner of a Lonely Heart, the single, and I told you guys that I had bought that when I went out to the store when it was brand new in 1983 or 84 and used my grass cutting money to buy records. Well, when I was there that day, I also bought this one. This is Corey Hart's Sunglasses at Night, his big hit from 1984. And this, I would have bought this when it was relatively new. The follow-up to this is a great song as well called It Ain't Enough, and you never hear that anymore, and it's a great record. And finally, 2 more picture sleeve 45s for you, ladies and gentlemen, taking you back to 1981 with Rick Springfield. I've done this is Jesse's Girl, his big breakthrough hit. The story behind Rick Springfield is that he was a struggling musician for years and years and years in Los Angeles, and then he started acting just so he could eat, so he could make money. He gets this job playing a doctor on a soap opera here called General Hospital, a daytime drama, and somebody figured out this guy could sing, so they came up with some money and they put him in the studio, and he recorded this album that this comes from. And of course it was a #1 hit because they put right on the cover here that it's, you know, the guy in General Hospital there, see? So, and then the follow-up single for this, I've Done Everything for You, Rick Springfield. And then he just went on to have a big string of hits after that. Some of my favorites, I really like Don't Talk to Strangers, which was came out the next year after this. Affair of the Heart was one that was a good one. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. The latest records added to the collection. Just throw them on the pile. It's more stuff my kids will have to figure out what to do with when I die. Thank you for watching the video. Thank you for sticking around this long. I certainly do appreciate it. And when I get a pile of new records, we'll do it again. Thanks for all the positive feedback. Talk to you again soon.